All right, it's Saturday night.
Ready up for some shenanigans?
Shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks?
You mean shenanigans?
Oh!
What about shenanigans, right?
And welcome to Saturday Night Shenanigans. I'm Mongo.
I'm Matt.
That's right. Matt from Canada, also from At the Inn podcast, and Cheap Seat Booking has joined us. So thanks for joining the show, Matt.
Oh, thanks for having me, buddy. I love talking wrestling, as you know. I mean, we bonded over wrestling, and Matt from Canada, and if only one other person gets that joke, that's who I targeted it at. So you're welcome.
Exactly. And holy moly, what a week we have had in wrestling, from the TV deal that got signed with AEW that, as the famous Mark Twain quote says, the reports of my death have been quite premature. So, or greatly exaggerated, I believe. So
yeah, absolutely. It honestly, it reminds me of an old John Wayne line. I thought you were dead. Not hardly. And then he punches the dude in the face. So that's exactly, to me, that's exactly what the AEW TV deal is summed up. I know there's a lot of trolls and tribalism out there, but AEW is aimed at guys like you and I that just want to see good wrestling. And that was exactly it. It's like, not hardly. We ain't done yet, son. Love it. I absolutely love it. I'm hoping. So here's the thing. I'm Canadian, hence Matt from Canada. So I don't have the same access you do.
I know.
So I'm hoping that my HBO subscription is bundled in a channel in an app called Crave up here. So I'm hoping that works out for me. If not, I'm gonna have to do some research and get my AEW fixes, because I need me some more.
I know. I kind of feel like it's weird. I think I said something to someone the other day that was also from Canada, and I was like, it's really strange when like half the roster is from Canada, that the distribution in Canada sucks. They need to fix that.
I mean, it was really in our favor at one point. Back in the day, back in the 90s, the Monday Night War, it's a big thing, right? It was a huge thing. Not in Canada. We had TSN, the sports network up here. This is predates Sportsnet. Both Monday Night Raw and Nitro, all the WCW, all the WWE programming was on the same channel. I didn't have a war. I had to wait 2 days to see Nitro.
So you got robbed.
So that big spoiler, that big butts and seats thing, that was 2 days after I already saw Mick Foley won, lost my mind. So,
and that what's funny about that, he used to do that all the time. Everybody thinks that was like, the one time that burned him. He would constantly come on the show before and read spoilers, like, don't bother, change to our competitors. This is what happens. Yeah. And then you just be like, oh, okay. And sometimes it would work, like, oh, that sounds like a stinker. I'll just stay on this channel. But like you said, you had to wait 2 freaking days. So you were like, well, whatever. I watched both.
And the internet was in its infancy, so I didn't have as readily accessible internet. Like my flip phone, you flipped over this little plastic sheet and you could talk and press the buttons. And the rest was like a 9-pound battery, unless you had the Motorola, which you could kill a man with, and apparently are still functional. They won't die. They're the T100 of Motorola phones. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because I don't see Rampage, I don't see Collision unless it's filmed in Canada. So I have to have the app. I stopped doing that because there's so much wrestling content that I can get on my TV. I got wrestling I haven't even watched yet. I went out of my way to make sure I was up to date for this show on the stuff that I normally watch. I can get TNA. I can get a few other things. I can get NXT. And I just like, you know what? I got too much. I mean, Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite, that's, 7 hours of every week. I got 4 kids and a wife that I like. So, and a full-time job. I don't have that much time. So I don't get to catch up on the Collision and the Rampage. I mean, they come to town and once in a while it shows up on my PVR. I'm like, oh, yay. I have a thing, but now I have to find
bonus.
2 hours. I mean, I don't find myself leaning on the fast forward button as much as I do with some WWE programming. That's not to say I don't like WWE. It's just I find it real easy to lean on that fast forward button for a lot of stuff lately.
And it's hard too because like with the way they present both, there's a lot of filler on WWE. So I think that's the issue for me is you have AEW style, which is just it's like match after match after match. So there's not really a lot of cooldown, which it can be to his detriment. Like if you have to go to the bathroom at a live event, you're like, crap, I'm gonna miss stuff. Versus AEW, if you go to a live event, you're like, all right, well, it's gonna I'm gonna miss nothing. I came back. It's still the same video package. So
Yeah.
I mean, I can see the good and bad, but yeah, watching on TV sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm like, I'll just fast forward this segment. I could care less, or I'll catch highlights on this.
Yeah, or even the picture in picture is like, you know what? I'm still gonna fast forward these commercials because if I watch it fast forward, it's not going to be a whole lot of detrimental stuff. Speaking of which, you brought it up. I know it's a couple weeks old. Raw going to 2 hours for the remainder of the year. I'm for it. I am so for it. Not only does it free up time, it's probably going to take a little cramp out of my fast forward finger. You know what I mean?
And I think 2 hours is a sweet spot. I think 3 hours is just too much for one show because you start to lose your patience or focus, or if something drags in the middle, you don't care about the ending. And I think ever since Raw's been 3 hours, it's that third hour, unless it's had a great main event, it's just dragged, and it's like, oh, I'll check it later.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I find they space out the let's call it the less appealing stuff. So it's hard to just go, oh, I'm just going to shut off at this hour because they got something in there you want to see. There's a lot of talent. I'm sorry, you don't land for me personally. It might be not. You might not have all the pieces in place. I might not be your demographic as a 40-year-old white male. But like, there's just some talent, it just doesn't land for me. So I'm like, yeah, I will skip through this. I do it on pay-per-views too, but I mean, I'm not paying per show right now. Kind of scared how January works out, but it's the way it is. Like, just I'm not into it, and I need to cut the time down. Honestly, I either have other wrestling, other shows, or other commitments.
No, and it's fair too. There's a lot of times where I've tuned in to AEW just for maybe one match I was really interested in, didn't watch the whole program. But I find I can watch the whole program because it's so many matches I want to see. It kind of goes faster. Whereas, like maybe I tune to SmackDown because I want to see the Bloodline segment. But like you said, maybe the other stuff, it's like not for me. You kind of trim the fat, but doesn't mean it's not entertaining. Like that's what I think is funny about when I see people in the comments or you see people in the comments. It's like you're getting all up in arms over your opinion of what you think is good. Like it's weird. Like it's subjective entertainment. Like relax. Your favorite quote is just pro wrestling.
That's one of the big sticking points that we can get into, let's say, heated debates with other people, especially on a certain week of the year. You talk about a lot, I talk about a lot on my show, but there's a certain week of the year we have a chance to have face-to-face discussion with a lot of other wrestling fans, and it can get heated over certain people. I remember I got into a bit of an argument in front of a very big name talent in a pool one day over whether or not The Miz was a good performer. I was on the pro side. Most of the people in the pool were not. I just remember realizing at one point that I'm in this heated discussion next to a very large name currently signed to AEW. I know you were there and around the pool that day. You posted a video on it, so you know exactly who I'm talking about. I don't want to drop names, but he was very cool, very, very drunk. And I was like, shit, I'm having this argument in front of this person.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't matter if you think The Miz or R-Truth or whoever else is like good, bad, or indifferent. I have people I'm a big fan of. You have people you're a big fan of. Other people have people they're a big fan of. And then some don't disagree, some don't agree with it, and it's the way it is. Like, we may not be the demographic for everybody, but I truly believe everybody out there has a demographic, and they are somebody's favorite wrestler.
No, I think you're right. I mean, how many times have I'm going to ask you this question because I was just talking to Emily the other day. I was like, I've gone on the cruise not caring about a certain talent. Again, I won't name drop either, but like, oh, I didn't care about this person or these people. I could care less. But then by the end of the cruise, I'm like, I fucking love them. Like they're so entertaining, or I enjoy them more, and you root for them more, and you just make that connection. Even that you can find on YouTube, or you can find like even watching Bad Blood, tonight. I'm like, oh, I hadn't really seen much of this person. I really enjoyed that match, or I hadn't seen much of this. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to take a chance. Or like you said, if you like something, like don't force yourself to watch it. I definitely won't. If I'm like, I'm not feeling this, I'm not going to sit there and trudge through it. Like you said, it's too much freaking time.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I'll drop a couple names on exactly what you're saying right now. There was a tag team on the last cruise. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe they're not. They're probably they seem to be aiming at my demographic, but I'm not quite seeing it. But they were super entertaining, and they were super fun to hang around with, and they were super fun to converse with and have a drink. And they didn't have a bad match on the cruise. And I'm talking about the Outrunners.
Yeah, MVP's the last cruise.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And they were like, you get that little bit of extra. And I'm not going to say we sat there and became best friends. It was, I don't know, maybe 3 conversations that totaled 20 minutes over the course of 4 days. But
it's almost like they peel back the curtain a little bit for you, so you kind of get to see their personality. So you kind of like, oh, I vibe with this person. I'm going to watch them more.
And getting to see them up close, because live wrestling is interesting. You don't have that option of cutting the camera or finding the good camera angle. You really get to see how good they are, how much daylight they have between what they're doing, how much fun they're having. And that's really a turning point. And I saw no flaws in their game on that cruise. And I really appreciated the fact that they did that one match cosplaying as the Mega Powers.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Oh.
It really was. And they're doing great. Like they got something going with FTR right now, but it was on either Collision or Rampage. So I didn't see it until the YouTube clips came out. I just watched it while I was waiting for this to start. I watched the feed on your page, and I'm like, this is absolutely brilliant. These are 2 throwback 80s teams doing throwback 80s stuff, and I am here for it, and I cannot wait till it implodes.
Right, I'm loving it. It's like they had like the thing, the FTR runners, and it's like, yeah, everyone knows it's so obvious that they're gonna break our heart when they break up, and they're gonna have that big blow off match because FTR is gonna want to give them the rub. But yeah, like you said, just the visuals of them pumping iron, then putting on the 80s glasses, and Dax just twisting his mustache, and just I like it because it's just camp enough. It's that wrestling camp. You're like, this is entertaining as hell. And I didn't think I'd be rooting this hard for the Outrunners. I mean, Jeff, as you saw from last week, I know you know Jeff from the cruise. He's been Outrunner since like NWA. He has one of the OG shirts, and every time I see him, I think I smile for Jeff too. I'm like, oh, his boys, and now it's like our boys, the cruise, and they're having fun. I think when people realize it's like Orange Cassidy, I say it all the time. I did not get his shtick when I first started watching him. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is he doing? Like what the hell? And then it was the feud with Jericho, and I was like, I get it. I understand. He's doing it to mock people. He's not doing it because he's like, just lazy. He's just like, I'm gonna kick you like this. And it's like, once you understand it, or once you just let yourself have fun, you become entertained, whether it's sports entertained or entertained.
Yeah, when I saw some of his stuff in the ring, when they finally took him out of the managerial role, put him in the ring and let him really have some time, I got it. Because the most I knew him from was being called My Little Dog Pockets by Jim Cornette. I'm like, okay. But when I saw him do what he can do with his hands in his pockets, are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying, it was around the feud with Jericho where he really is getting some TV time, and I finally got it. And a friend of mine said, I know the kick thing makes you mental. I'm like, yeah, it does. It makes me mental. He's like, it's not a move. You're looking at it wrong. It's a taunt. It's a long taunt in a video game. And when he said that, I went, oh.
Right? Yeah, and it was that light bulb moment. You're like,
yep. Exactly. Light bulb. And I'm like, oh, I get it. And yeah, it has turned into what I said. It's like, I just need somebody to take his friggin' head off when he's in the middle of that. And it's happened. It happens a lot now. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm on board. But then he sticks his hands in his pockets and he does things that, more able-bodied people than I could do in the ring without their hands in their pockets. So I'm right with you with Orange. Like, he is probably my biggest AEW original wake-up call. And there's been a few. And names like MJF, Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, who I've kind of slid downhill on because I don't want to see him die on national TV.
Right.
But I'm amazed, absolutely amazed.
And I think that's probably your fatherly instincts kicking in. Like, I don't want to see someone I really enjoy get hurt.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's fatherly instincts, but I know what I'm watching, and it's supposed to look like it hurts. I'm not supposed to watch you die on national TV. It might be the fact that I, was around in 1999 for Over the Edge too, or 1998 for King of the Ring. So, like, I've seen enough serious injuries by accident. I don't want to see a serious injury going that started with, guys, hear me out on this spot, okay? And then somebody goes, that's brilliant, let's give it a try. And it happens on national TV or a pay-per-view audience. Like, please don't die in front of me.
I know. That's like a flashback to every ECW episode. I remember watching, not to go too far a tangent, but I remember watching as a kid and, like, seeing people just throw a chair from across the ring. I'm like, he just threw that and he didn't try to catch it. He caught it with his face. Like, ow. And then you're like, there's not really a way to, let's just say, gimmick that. You just take it and hope to God you just get it on your forehead, not your nose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And on the other side, we'll get back on track. I'm going to tell you a quick ECW story. There's a Jerry Lynn or RVD match from back in the day. I don't remember the exact pay-per-view. Jerry Lynn is crouched on the top rope. RVD kicks him in the chest. Jerry Lynn goes to the outside, hits the floor, and there's about a 6-inch gap between the match. And then for the next 20 some odd minutes of the match, Jerry Lynn is basically knocked the out. And you feel bad for him because he is clearly a mess mentally. On that last cruise, my heart was broken. And I've told this on both of my other podcasts because I was talking to Jerry Lynn about it. I was like, I swear to God, dude, I thought you were dead. He's like, in front of another buddy of ours, he goes, dude, that was a work.
Oh,
I had never even got close to it.
Oh, he got you.
He got me. And I just looked at him, and our buddy Alex looked at me and looked back at him, and he said to me later, it was like a Simpsons episode. I could pinpoint the exact second when your heart broke.
Oh.
Right? And yeah, but that's you absolutely nailed it. Like, some of the stuff they were doing made you convinced that everything was real. And
it's so hard. And then you see stuff like tonight, like in the Hell in the Cell, like we can get to it, like with Punk and Drew, you see stuff and you're like, is that supposed to happen? And like, I think that's why I enjoy wrestling. When you start to question, is this a work or are we getting the X? Because look at AJ Styles on SmackDown. He hurt his ankle, but it was a work. But he sold it so well that I thought he was hurt until they came out and like, oh, it's a storyline.
Yeah, there was a point right near the end of that where I'm like, okay, thank God, because like I was so happy to have AJ back. And I watched the last hour of SmackDown, probably hour and a half actually, right before Bad Blood when I got home from an extra shift today. And I saw just the last bit of that. I'd seen the first bit of the Mello and AJ match, and I thought, oh my God, it's AJ 2004 versus AJ 2024. And I loved it. Like, I've kind of been like meh on Mello. Now I'm watching Mello. Mello's on TV. I'm paying much closer attention. And that's all due respect for his recent stuff with Andrade and LA Knight, because it's been doing really good. All three of those guys. But now that I've seen him next to AJ, one of my all-time favorites, I'm like, okay, I'm watching you now. I'm watching you real close. And that thing with AJ is older. AJ gets it. That selling of it, that fear I had of, oh God, he's going away again. I don't want him to go away again. Please don't go away, AJ. Please stay. And there was a moment right near the end, I think, when LA Knight jumped in. I'm like, oh, it's storyline, thank God.
Yeah. Like,
Or is it? Is the thing.
And I think that's what I enjoy about it, because I think we all forget. We know too much. We peek behind the curtain. Triple H said it best in that Vince talk. Once the Madison Square Garden incident happened in that video, which to go viral back then is crazy in itself, but everyone started to realize, oh, things have worked. And I think with the advent of the internet afterwards, we know too much. We peek too behind. I think we forget that we're supposed to be fooled. They're supposed to suspend disbelief. So when they genuinely get you, you're like, whoa, you son of a bit. Like, like you said that, it reminded me of Sabu broke my heart the similar way when I found out his botches were at work. I did not know. And I was like, and people were like, oh yeah, is that what you could tell? And he was like, yeah, I did that shit on purpose. Cause he's like, maybe I messed up and you don't know. So I did it again. Cause you'll never know if it was on purpose or at work. I'm like, you brilliant bastard.
Yeah. I mean, either he's telling us the truth and it makes sense. His story is like, I needed to be stopped in the match, but it didn't make sense for what we were going through for him to all of a sudden stop me. So I stopped myself. Or maybe he actually just slipped and is just come up with a brilliant excuse. And you know what? I don't care which one is true. I really don't. You know what? Sabu is Sabu. And, our good buddy, Cruz Flair is doing the Sabu Twitch stream, I believe it is.
Yep,
Sabu Speaks.
Sabu Speaks, yep.
And doing quite well. So, I mean, shout out to them. Way to go, Tony. Way to go, Sabu. I'm glad these guys have something to do in their retirement. And that's cool. But
still contribute. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I legitimately felt bad for Sabu because there was one cruise, he had a photo shoot at the same time as Mickey James in the same room. One line was much longer than the other. But if you got through the Mickey James line, you could run back around the other side and go straight up to Sabu. And I did.
I think I chose.
I just
Sabu
felt
first.
bad because they're like, anybody wants picture Sabu? Like we got space in line. Where he's like, nope, this one first.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, I mean, Bad Blood started at 6. I was a little shocked. So 6 my time, so 3 your time.
Yep.
I was a little shocked, but then they said on the pre-show, oh, they have a UFC event tonight. I'm like, oh. So are we going to get that in the future because they're moving it because of UFC? Now, don't get me wrong. I got to watch this in a little bit of Collision. And it kind of ended early, so it was nice to end early. And if you're on West Coast, it ended by dinner time.
Yeah, it ended. I was a little behind on my PVR. We still have the network up here. We don't have to go through Peacock or whatever it is. So it started at 3. I got home from work. I finished that Sabu thing. I was about 45 minutes behind, or not Sabu, since SmackDown, and then 45 minutes behind. I was able to catch up. I was live by the end of the main event. I was like, cool, now like dinner time. Fantastic. But West Coast people are spoiled because all pay-per-views are geared towards the East Coast time zone. So I've never really had a pay-per-view start at 8 p.m. It's always been 5 out here.
You're lucky. But I feel bad for our English friends. I have to get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning every time. Like, oh, that's dedication.
Yeah, I mean, like anywhere else in the world has got to be brutal, or it's like, you know what? You risk spoilers. Like back in the day, not a big deal. Now
it's instantaneous.
Yes, absolutely is. You got to be really careful with that. I know I try to be very careful with it. Personally, if like, no, I need to see it that bad, I'll just put my phone down. If I have to, I'll just play solitaire if I'm fidgety waiting for the show. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's a tough slog on some of these shows if you want to see it live or at least avoid spoilers, right? Like,
and
is what it is.
This one had a lot of backstage rumors with, will The Rock show up? Will Jimmy show up? It's in Atlanta. Who's going to show up? And will CM Punk main event? And you didn't know. And they opened the show. I was shocked. It was about 6 o'clock. And all of a sudden I see Drew McIntyre entering. I'm like, we're opening with this. Interesting.
Yeah.
Choices.
That I have that in my notes. That was an interesting one to start with. I mean, I get why they would want to keep the tag match in the main event. and put some separation between the two. But personally, I think I'd have, and I am not a fan of one of these guys, but I think I would have put the Hell in a Cell on last.
I think so too.
Tossed a match in between. I'm not sure which one. Probably the Nia Jax match in between, and put the tag team match third to last. That's just me, because I think that Hell in the Cell is a special blow off, and putting it so early almost seems disrespectful and counterproductive to the mystique of the Cell. I mean, they've done a couple decades of work of beating the Cell mystique into the ground at this point by just putting like 4 on every year. But this one had a good story. And yeah, I sometimes I just don't get what's going on, but I also can understand the star power. Is anybody that hasn't seen it yet and doesn't want spoilers may want to pause at this point. Maybe mute it for 5 seconds. Especially since The Rock showed up at the end. He didn't do anything. He just walked in and just caused the buzz, right? But so I understand why they did it. It's just I don't know. There's something about putting that title match on early, putting that Hell in the Cell match on early. This doesn't sit well with a dude that's been watching since WrestleMania 1.
Yeah, I also think too. First of all, I want to say this: it's not a secret where my loyalties lie to anyone not named Drew McIntyre in this match. I'm not going to go on a tangent, but I am a big Drew McIntyre fan. I think this year he's really grown on me. I think he's finally gotten that personality he's needed, and I thought he bumped his ass off and made Punk look good. I think he really had a good carry job. And I don't mean that as an insult, but he really carried the match and was kind of like the ring general in this match. And I enjoyed some of the crazy spots, whether it was the suplex to the table outside, whether it was that nasty bump on the stairs, the callback to the beads where he poured them all over the place. Like just they worked well together. They had a good blow off. I'm not going to be that person who hates on it. I really enjoy it. It was probably one of the best Hell in the Cell matches I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it really was. And one of the things that I really appreciated, and I'm going to get to the beads in just a second, they stayed in the cell. They stayed inside the cell. I think really good matches can be in there, but there's now been this crutch since, I mean, really the inception. Let's be honest with you. Like Shawn came out of the cell too. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's better when they didn't come out of the cell. Yeah, Shawn came out of the cell first in the first match. So I get that. I got that cringe moment. Like I didn't want to watch it because like you, I'm a Drew McIntyre loyalist. I cannot say that for everybody else involved in the match, but they brought that black velvet bag out, and that usually means thumbtacks.
I know. I was like, thumbtacks. I'm like, oh.
I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to go put the ribs in the oven. But then he dumped it out as the beads. I lost it. I came unglued. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy use of the tools in the toolbox. I think those are too tough to work. And if you make them workable, then you go back in the day. Kane stepped on a hammer and it bent. So maybe not. Also, CM Punk needs to learn how to lock a toolbox before he hits somebody in the head with it, because those metal edges will fucking hurt.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, ow, don't even gotta close that thing. You're like, that corner's gonna catch one of the temple. It's just gushing. But,
right? They were both bloody and bleeding, which I'm assuming the WWE health people are on top of that, because you know, this day and age, we know a lot, and you don't necessarily want to have somebody else's blood on you. But I really enjoyed what was going on there. Big Drew McIntyre fan, not so much in his face run. I think, and I can sum this up. I'm going to compare Drew McIntyre's run to Diesel's run.
Yes,
because when he was a badass and when he was on the heel side with Shawn, everybody wanted to see him, and then they made him a baby face, and it didn't work as well. And then right before he went over to WCW, they made him just a killer heel again, and he was cool. And that to me is Drew McIntyre. Leave him as the cool heel that can sort of drift that line. If like you need him to be the bad guy, he can work that way. You know, if you just need him to be the cool heel and whoop somebody, he can work that way as well. But I mean, that's the best way I can sum it up. His babyface run just reminded me of when they basically cut the balls off of Diesel.
No, and that's perfect. I used to get so much heat on a previous podcast, and I was like, some people can't work baby. I know it's the most obvious statement in the world, but there are some people who you make them a baby face and it's awkward. Randy Orton always comes to mind. I do not like Randy Orton as a baby. He's better like in that Drew McIntyre tweener role or a full heel. And I think Drew is that person. He's a big jack dude that kicks your head off. It's hard for him to be like, "Hey, golly gee, how are you?" No, he's
It's
gonna be the guy
story
that's
time
like,
with Drew McIntyre. Yeah, don't
Baby.
care. Fast forward.
right. But then when he's carrying out the sword, but then when he's just like, "Listen, I'm here for the money. I'm not here for little disrespectful punks like step out or step in." Okay, like that's believable. It makes sense. I enjoy it, and I think it was good. I wish Drew picked up the win. I think he needed to win a little bit more, just so he wasn't down 2-1 in the feud. I know why they did it, but I just think he needed a little more.
I agree. I wanted Drew to win, except it was one of those things like in your heart, you just know. And the only thing you say is, hopefully this is it. We're done here. I mean, Seth is back. So, there's somewhere else for him to go. So Drew can go and do something else. Let's blow this off. Okay. Grand fashion. They worked the Hell in a Cell perfectly. This was 11 months in the making. 11 months. Remember, like Rollins and McIntyre flipped their quote unquote flipped their shit when Punk came back at Survivor Series last year. So it's like I'm fine with it being done. Let's move on to that. Everybody has something else to do. I would have rather see Drew win, but I get why they had to do it.
And before we go on to the women's match, I would say I agree with Taryn. I got put in my place there because she is right. 2004, Randy Orton was peak Orton. I just think once he went that 2009 heel, it's hard for him to go back because he was such a badass.
Oh yeah,
he was just punting people and he was just taking everyone out. But yeah, early like Evolution Randy Orton, paid, made, laid, that cocky. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that babyface run between SummerSlam and basically RKOing Stacy Keibler right before WrestleMania to set up the Undertaker thing. That was great. He was a white meat baby face that I could get behind and I didn't think was just lame. I mean, I was not a Randy Orton fan at first. It took Randy's IC run. I was so mad when he beat RVD. Real mad.
My man, he did.
Yeah, fair enough. But you know what? What a way to age. But yeah, Taryn is right though. That's that we don't see that behind the scenes stuff either, right? But like that little baby face run made me really care about that kind of baby face and set him up that everybody was mad that he dropped Stacy like a bad habit. But it was that Mick Foley match where he showed that no, I can go with anybody. Watch this shit, and hundreds of thumbtacks in them, or dozens at the very least. And I told Mick to his face. I said, "Your feud with Randy Orton made me a Randy Orton fan. Thank you so much for making him, and thank you so much for everything else." But it's who you work with.
That Legend Killer tour was special.
It really was. And Randy can do everything. Right now, I feel he's just sort of a blasé snake. Is like, I'm gonna drop you if I have to. And I'm pretty sure everybody understands that they're looking at Orton and Owens for WrestleMania at this point. I don't think there's a way out of that.
And you were talking about tax earlier, and we got Taryn out there with the big cojones wanting to get put through tax at Boca in January for Dez versus Cheeseburger, the rubber match. Holy shit, Taryn.
I got tickets to that already, so
I'm definitely getting my tickets to that once we know our exact dates were coming down. That's definitely on the plans for sure.
Yeah, I had a blast at last year's Boca Raton show. Went to see our buddy Nolar Bear. I was really impressed with it. I had a great time, and I immediately signed up for the next one. It's a great kickoff to the cruise deal. But yeah, thumbtacks. I'm not on board with it. I don't necessarily need to see it. Taryn, please be careful. Like, that's all I got to say. Like, I love you like a little sister. Please be careful if you're going to be out there doing stuff, because I can definitely see how you're going to add to that. I just,
Ouch.
don't die.
Yeah, no. We need Taryn. We need you. We did,
Mm-hmm.
But she's gonna. Yeah, she's right though. She's gonna go out there and show who has the biggest. Yeah. She's
Oh,
got it.
no,
I
yeah,
couldn't
no,
do it. She's already
I
got
don't
bigger
even-
grapefruits than I do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will put money on that. I'm pretty sure that's. So I'm from BC. For those of you that don't know, British Columbia. Taryn is from Alberta. We can always tell when an Albertan is in BC, not by the license plate, because they have chrome testicles hanging from their trailer hitch. And I'm pretty sure Taryn gets a commission off of every set because she's got one herself.
Oh, we'll help make sure you're good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could personally take tax. I fell on friggin' broken glass once when I was like 10. I still have scars from that.
Yeah, I'll help you pull some thumbtacks out, Taryn. But if the vein is throbbing, I'm probably gonna leave it in and send you to the hospital first, because I don't need you doing a grapefruit impression on me.
This comment pops me because my friggin' uncle had a pair of chuck nuts, and I used to make fun of him because I was like, his name's Larry, and I was like, Uncle Larry, nothing says I have a tiny like those on the back of your Ford F-250. That's 4 different colors because you just hit everything with your blind ass.
Yeah. And frankly, Taryn is right. That's exactly how we feel about it in BC. And what we say out here in BC when we see those go by, or we see somebody with a giant shiny truck and no dirt on it and a huge lift kit, is sorry about your penis.
Oh boy.
Anywho, what else you seen this week, man?
No, it's all right. So, back to the so we had Nia Jax going over Bailey, but we had that Tiffy time tease, which
that was a good tease.
I definitely liked the will she tease, then the ref kind of holding it, her the ref, and then Nia being mad. So I see they're teasing. I liked it. I just hate to see the sacrifice of Bailey, because Bailey's such a talent I enjoy watching. I just kind of hate seeing her be the sacrificial lamb in this.
Well, you know what? I think much like, stars of the past that are evergreen. Randy Orton's had his times where he knows that the amount of light in every building. Bailey's in her time, right? And the great ones will go out there and they'll have great matches, and they're gonna be looking at the lights more often than not. Bailey's in that right now, but when it comes back around, you gonna know.
Yeah,
this is why she is a multi-time world champion. And right? Like, I agree with you. I'm just like, okay, Bailey's making Nia look good. Nia has a very polarizing figure out there. I don't mind her, but I can definitely see where there's credibility to her critics. It's just Bailey going out there. Nia's learning from Bailey. It's like Natty Neidhart. Natty goes out there. I've had the most wins on Raw. I've had the most matches on WWE history. It's like, you're out there teaching. I get that.
And I like it because if you listen to any of the talent, they always talk about how if you want to know if you can work, you work with Natty. If you want to see what you work with Natty. And I think some people just are those, and I'm not using Gunther's nickname, but like a ring general. She's a ring general. I think Bailey's starting to turn into that, being and I think she's trying to help Nia, like you said, to get Nia's credibility, but also Nia's helping Tiffy, and I think it's smart to make Nia, because once she cashes in on Nia, people are going to go nuts. People are going to go nuts.
And that was such a good tease tonight. It was so well engineered, even to the point where Nia has a lot of critics about timing and everything else, but Nia's timing on her sit-up when the referee picked up the case, Tiffany grabbed it to take it back, and Nia sat up. It would, like, the whole thing was dead solid perfect. I think Nia's got legs. She needs more reps. She needs a lot more reps, but I think there's something there. I understand what they see in her, and I thought that tease went so well, and it is a shame that is Bailey in there, but you need the credibility of having the Bailey in there. You know what I mean?
That is true. Yeah. I think that what's hard too is we haven't really seen Triple H's style. And this is not a negative. This isn't anything like criticism. It's just what I've noticed is so far a lot of the stories are Vince carryover, Paul Heyman. Like the bloodline is Paul Heyman, Vince, and Roman. Right? Again, I'm not knocking it. It's one of the best stories in wrestling. We haven't really seen Triple H's full vision, but we've seen him plant seeds. We've seen him get there. So this is really his true test to this WrestleMania, because it'll be a WrestleMania to WrestleMania of his booking. And I'm liking what I'm seeing, like you said, with this Tiffany. So I like that he's rewarding people for paying attention versus it used to feel like they just insulted your intelligence. So I think that's what's making me want to tune back in, because you're being rewarded for investing in characters again versus I really like Sami Zayn and he lost for the 37th time.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, you look at, going to your ring general thing back in the day was X-Pac,
Yes.
right? Like, it's like if you can't have a good match with the kid, you're going to get fired. I mean, Jericho himself has been on record going, yeah, it was pretty much my last chance, so I had to go out, and it was X-Pac, and thank God that we had enough chemistry. But it's one of those people like Natty, hard to have a bad match with. You have to be either way off kilter or trying to do it. The whole Triple H thing, I agree with you. I think this is his first step was clean up the roster to something he felt he could work with, which he has done, because I'm looking at that roster and there are people that are definitely fast forward material. They've got that like 1996 Jeff Jarrett heat with me. Jeff Jarrett does not have that heat now. I know a lot more about the man. His podcast is fantastic. If you haven't heard it,
Double G he was like click.
Yeah, it was fast forward heat, right? It's like no, anything but he's a wonderful human being. Anyways, that having that is one thing, and it means you're doing a really good job. It really does, because they don't want to look at you. They want to see you punched in the face, and the whole deal is just, can we get there? Can we do it? And I think they're doing a good job with that. And now the roster is to the point of he has those people in place. He has the good workers in place. Look at that triple threat ladder match tag team title thing.
That was wild.
I'm bored of ladder matches, to be honest with you. I think they need to go away for like 2 years before I care again. Because like the Hell in the Cell, we had the annual Money in the Bank, and then we had every other pay-per-view had one. The WrestleMania multi-person cluster match was usually a ladder match with something hanging there. But that triple threat tag title we had on Friday was pretty skookum. Look at the talent in there. We're talking Street Profits, DIY, and the Gorillas of Destiny.
And then you're adding in Motor City Machine Guns to that because they teased that.
You know what? I'm tired of hearing about the Motor City Machine Guns because until they come out, it's just getting hopes up and them heartbroken. I want it so bad.
I mean, they had a vignette of cars going through Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're finally seeing something of substance where we're going to get them. And I think it's going to be incredible. And I think all the rumors about them going to NXT were just to get eyes in NXT. But I mean, look what's coming up.
I mean, aside from the fact that they have been around for a couple of decades, they're not spring chickens. I don't think there is a reason for them to go to NXT. And the only reason I would say because they've been around for a couple decades is to add credibility to that brand, which honestly, I haven't really watched NXT aside from the premium live events since the black and gold went away and since they wiped that roster clean. Like I find a hard time getting into it. I leave it on my PVR, and when it gets to 10 episodes, if I haven't watched one, I just delete it. But I'll go back and watch stuff. If something pops up on the internet, I'll go back and I'll watch stuff. But Motor City Machine Guns and NXT, great boost to the channel, but I don't want them there. I want them on Mondays. I want them on Fridays.
Yeah.
They were a highlight of TNA back in the day. Their stuff with the Dudleys was fantastic. I loved the way they did it. If they had done that storyline in the women's division, they'd have been canceled. But it was you guys are too fat to be in TNA and tag team. And the Dudleys are like, we're just going to beat the piss out of you for the next 6 months. And I'm cool with it. Yeah, I need them. I need them, especially with the rumors of the Lucha Brothers. Although now I guess it's Lucha Brother. We'll see how that plays out. I think that Raw tag team division needs something. It looks like we're losing New Day. Really impressed with the way they're working the New Day storyline, by the way. I really like this.
Or are they going back to their roots and becoming a heel? Because a lot of people are predicting their demise. I think they're going heel. I think Xavier's just trying to convince Kofi, you've done everything right. What has it gotten you? I think that's what they're... Because it seems Karrion Kross is being like the devil on everyone's shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle. Like, he goes around people and then bad things happen to them. There's bad juju. So I kind of like what they're doing there. Like, it's...
Well, I mean, he's bad juju on himself. They saddled him with the Authors of Pain. I kid. I kid, because one of them's a good Burnaby boy, just raised up the road for me here. And they're also big, bad human beings that would just squish me like a grape. But yeah, I mean, I don't... Honestly, it's one of those things where I don't care where the story goes. Let's just go for it. Like, whether it's Kofi and Woods scrapping it out or whether they go dark, I love both these guys. Show me what's going on. They finally have something better than just showing up to, make sure all the lights aren't burnt out. I'm here for it. Like, the New Day drove me mental for the first 6 months, especially with that trumpet thing. And then something clicked, and just before they turned face. So I was probably really early in that. We're going to turn them face slowly. So I was probably a really early adapter to that. I was like, yeah, okay. I see what you're doing.
I didn't like them even until pretty much I went to Mania 33, and I remember I had a New Day Suck shirt on, and this kid, I had gotten a New Day shirt, and I had put duct tape Kevin O style on the front. Sucks. So he's like, yeah, New Day. And I turn around, he sees us like, oh, and he walks away crushed. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm like, no, I enjoy him. I just like fucking with people who are like obsessed. But then when they kind of came out and I saw their personalities at Mania Live, I'm like, they're fun. I get it. They get you wanting to. So I had bought a new Mania shirt, so I changed my shirt. I'm like, you know what? I ain't gonna be the hater. So
you know what? They were really upset that you gave them some money so that you could tape over it.
Right, I was gonna say, depending on the joke's on me, I'm the idiot.
Right, like, yeah, yeah, thanks, yeah, no, that's good. I'm hurt. I'm just gonna go over here to the ATM for real quick.
And also, in my defense, I had gone to a place called Graffiti, which and got lubed up. Let's just say, plenty of
brilliant
frothy beverages before we went, so I was already kind of like.
Well, yeah, I was a little concerned there because P Diddy's in the news a lot, so that L word is a little awkward these days. But no, I get it. Hey, yeah, I've been known to tilt a beverage or two myself.
I still don't know how I got in NXT the night before because I full on face planted when we went to go in. This was Shinsuke Bobby Roode, and I didn't want to miss it. And I go through the turnstile. I face planted. I got up, walked in, ended up tripping on a camera cable because I was in the wrong section because my tickets were supposed to be in one section, but they moved me. And
you tripped on a camera cable. Did you walk backstage?
No, they had them through because I was on hard cam side, so they had them through some of the rows. So I was going down to my section.
Yeah, I get it.
So my tickets were mislabeled. So I was supposed to be like 121, but I was in 122 on my ticket. I ended up tripping, didn't get hurt, but I just kind of felt like an idiot. And the guy was like, he felt bad because he saw the bruise, and I think he thought it happened with a camera cable, not from out front. I ended up getting to sit like 4 rows back from the ring because they moved me. It's like, we have some better seats in here for you. And I'm like, okay.
Okay. Better
gotta tell me
seats, define
twice.
better. Yeah, I mean, I'll take better seats all day long, but I got a thing. If you say, yeah, your better seat is 5th row floor, I'm like, ooh, 1 row too late. I'll stay where I am. Thank you very much.
True.
If anything past 4th row floor, put me in the first bowl. I
So go ahead.
yeah, I want to mention something else that I really enjoyed over on the other channel. I was expecting at least a return, if not a debut, over on Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Oh, I know you're going here.
Really enjoyed Jay White showing up. Really thought, like, okay, Jay White's back. Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing something out of Jay White. I mean, I know I can go look up New Japan, but I don't have time to watch what's on my PVR, let alone look it up. So I really want to see this, especially with an interesting little photo I saw earlier today, and it might have actually been something you posted. But Shelton Benjamin is all elite, baby. Absolutely. I am a Shelty B all day guy.
Yes,
Like, show me a bad Shelton Benjamin match. I dare you. They say, oh, he can't talk. I'm like,
okay.
I got a list of guys that made it huge that couldn't talk.
I was gonna say Kane wrestled for years and didn't say a word.
Exactly. Same with the Undertaker, right? All he said was "rest in peace" for years, and he was over his all get out. But
so,
like,
the way they debuted so far, the way they're debuting the Hurt Business is smart. So you had MVP show up by himself. Then this week on Dynamite, he's talking to Prince Nana. Nana's like, "Listen, I'll lace my boots up and kick your ass if you're gonna disrespect me and swerve again." He goes, "That sounds like a complaint." And then he goes, "I have a complaint department." And all of a sudden, Shelton Benjamin's in the picture, and he's like,
right?
"Complaint department."
He goes, yeah, the
Thanks
way
for
they
the
did, he's
coffee.
like, that's the complaint department. And I'm like, oh, Bobby? And it was Shelton, and I lost my mind. Especially what Sheldon did next. He took Nana's coffee cup and walked away.
I love it. So you know
So
Bobby's
good.
coming then. Like regardless of dirt
Oh, yeah.
sheets, you just know Bobby's coming.
So here's my question to you. So we have the Hurt Syndicate now. We had, oh God, his name just left my mind. In the Hurt Business, it was Bobby, it was Shelton, it was MVP.
Cedric Alexander.
Cedric Alexander, thank you very much. I loved his work. Can't believe I just blanked on him on your podcast there. But what's Cedric's story? I haven't seen him in a while.
Lost in catering, unfortunately.
Lost in catering.
He showed up on NXT for a hot minute, disappeared. I think he worked main event pretty recently, but one of those that's just I feel like being underutilized. It sucks because he's so talented.
It really is. The 205 thing kind of didn't work right. I have opinions on that, but we're almost at an hour, so we'll save that. But it would be interesting if Cedric Alexander was just quietly not without a contract as well, and nobody realized it. Because let's be honest, we don't really care. Because I forgot his name just now. I loved his work. I thought him and Shelton were a great tag team. They were perfect in that horseman conglomeration of we have our world champion, we have our tag team, we have our mouthpiece, and we have our now granted MVP was kind of the mouthpiece and the mid-card guy, but it quietly doesn't have a contract. Nobody pays attention. The dirt sheets aren't paying attention. Quietly gets one for AEW and then is just suddenly there hopping the guardrail.
Yeah, that would be a great like. Wait, what? Because yeah, no one would see that coming. I think that would be cool. And I know people are fantasy booking who's going in there, but I think there's going to be a method to this madness. I think MVP's choosing who he wants to work with. It definitely sounds like Tony was probably like, listen, I know what you can do. You know, Jericho knows, and regardless of whatever the story is, but people obviously know MVP because he's been in the business forever.
Yes.
I think they're like, listen, go out there, do what you wanted to do. We can get this to work. Here's some ideas we have. Just the fact that immediately they're going after Swerve by discrediting Nana, you're like, okay, like they're serious. This isn't we're gonna come in and win all your titles, like the typical. We're coming to take
Yeah.
over. No, they're coming in immediately looking to say we want the big dog.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that Swerve and Hangman are, probably one of AEW's biggest all-time feuds. It might be their longest running feud consistently at this point, 5 years in. So it's the Hogan Savage. It's their version of, Brett Shawn. And I'm gonna get so much hate for saying those words, but this is the AEW homegrown long-term feud. And now both Swerve and Hangman seem to be dropped in facing off against multi-man factions.
Yeah, it seems like now everything they did to destroy each other are now coming back to bite them in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Hanger going after Jay White and hurting him and ruining him. Christian still got a debt to pay with Jay White, so he's already kind of called his shot on that. So there's gonna be a lot of
shout out
faction
to
warfare.
Christian, such good work.
So that was one note I wanted to bring up too, real quick before we hit the hour
Yeah.
mark. So Taz went out for knee surgery, and the way they did this story was he was attacked backstage. Hook cuts a promo, and then right after the next segment's Christian Cage. We know how he is with father figures. So did Christian Cage have something to do with this?
Well, but okay, so I have notes on this. As anybody watching can actually see my face, I perked right up like a lemming. So one thing that got me was the way Hook hit that promo. He came out and he was about to drop the F-bomb on TV. I'm obviously not, but he came out, he was looking, he was about to lose his mind, turn around, punch the road case and said, "I'm gonna find you." Hook gets it. This kid is what, 3 years in, maybe 4, right? No, I don't see. I see a lot of indie show advertisements because of friends I have out in the East Coast. I don't see Hook's name on a lot of these.
I don't think he does
indie show things.
I think he just does AEW.
He is going to be so good when he gets the reps in, whether it's taking the indie bookings or getting more reps on AEW. Is going to be so good. But the thing about Christian's promo is, you remember the button he put on that? It's like, I'm going to take the title, hook, line and sinker.
I wrote that down, hook, line, and sinker.
I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. And Christian's doing the best work. He's always been so underrated. He had to leave WWE, do some great work in TNA, and people came into okay, so it's Christian, so what? And he did great work with Kurt Angle, with AJ Styles, with Samoa Joe, with everybody on the roster. Went back to WWE, finally got some credibility from them. He had his eggs scrambled a little bit and ended up sitting on the shelf, came back. That moment at the Rumble a few years back with Edge and Christian looking at each other.
And they hug.
Woo. Boy, was that powerful.
And then his contract expired, so then AEW was able to snatch him up, and probably one of their best signings they ever did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the irony is, almost a year ago to the day, they got the other half. I'm waiting to see how the end of the Edge and Christian story plays out, because I think there's some fun stuff coming. We've seen them against each other. We'll probably see them against each other some more. I think in between, we're going to see some tag team stuff, and it's going to give a fangasm to so many people.
Listen, I'm going to put it out there. They're going to get the tag team titles at least once, and whether it's a sting where they retire, maybe not retire with the belts, but they get that last run, and then they put over some young up and coming team to take them off.
I mean, Copeland's made no secret he's really tight with FTR.
Yes.
Edge and Christian versus FTR, sign me up. Sign me up. Cage and Copeland versus FTR, I probably should say, but I mean, I had the privilege of being at Wrestle Dream last year, and
he's going to be
the way they structured the match layout. There was one point in the evening, they put they put Swerve and Hangman on early, and I looked at my wife and I said to her, Edge is here. She goes, what? The only reason this match is on now is because Edge is coming out at the end of the show. And I was trying really hard not to get invested because his contract was just up like the day before, something stupid, within 72 hours. I'm like, no, I'm not going to get invested in this. I'm not going to go down to the show. I'm going to have a good weekend with my wife. I am not going to have this thing in my head and be disappointed by it. But when I realized the match order and they were putting that Darby Allin Christian match on last, I knew it. I just looked at my wife and I said, Edge is here. This is going to be fucking special. And it was.
What's up, Jamal? No, it was.
What's going on,
special.
Jamal?
We just went over that. We really enjoyed Bad Blood. You had a great show to be in attendance for. The Rock comeback, everything else. Great week for AEW. And I think that's what I love is everyone keeps talking about it. The way I look at it is by January, I can use myself. I don't have cable. So I can use Netflix and Max to watch both wrestling companies at my fingertips. I don't have complaints. The only really complaints I have are about how things are structured, blah, blah, blah. But I don't care about how many people are watching, not watching. I just care about good content. I'm just happy we're finally at a time where wrestling's fucking thriving again. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
We're eating good.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look over at Cheap Seat Booking on our intro, the very last thing you see is a quote from Luke Gallows. It's all pro wrestling, you dickheads. As far as I'm concerned, I've said it on my show repeatedly. You've heard me say it. You know, I say it a lot. It's like AEW is a charcuterie board of what's out there in the world. You get a little bit of Japan, you get a little bit of Mexico, you get a little bit of North America, you get a little bit of Europe. Sometimes they all match up. Sometimes, it's bits and pieces here. Sure, you don't get that North American story structure all the way through it, but you're going to see a banger of a match every time. It is hard to find a match on an AEW program where you're like, eh. And like even an match for AEW is just because we're used to seeing such good work 9 times out of 10.
That's the only issue is they set the bar so damn high that people bitch on the pay-per-views like, oh, that pay-per-view is only a 6 out of 10. It's so bad. Like that's the only downside is because they've had such a good roster. But again, it's just it's gluttony. We're just spoiled and I'm happy. I love it. I'm glad you had to come on and talk about it because I love talking about wrestling. It's fun. It's like the cruise buffet.
Yes.
You come back at lunchtime. It's a different spread than it was dinner. It's it's variety, and variety is a spice of life.
Hey, even sometimes you just come back for a slice of pizza, and this time it's warm, not cold, so it hits a little bit different, right? You know what I mean?
As Jamal would say, there's bacon.
Oh yeah, bacon. Absolutely. Like it is what it is. I thought years ago we were in for another boom period, that there would be a quote unquote chosen one to come along and fill the shoes of the Hogan, of the Rock, of the Stone Cold Steve Austin, of this Cena. We didn't get it. I mean, all respect to Roman Reigns, who is massive and deserves his spot. All respect to Brock Lesnar as the crossover major eye draw. The glut is the accessibility. The glut is the advent of the internet and the fact that when I was a kid, I had 3 channels on my TV for years. Now I have hundreds and I can go to the internet and find whatever I want. I just don't have the time because I need to work a full-time job still and I have family. So we can find whatever we want. We want to watch New Japan. We want to watch CMML. We want to watch Defy. We want to watch Rev Pro. We can find it.
You want to just watch
and that's
the
where the glut
of a
is.
match that you're like, I just really want to see the highlights. I don't want to watch that whole Iron Man match, but I'd love to see the good spots. It's great, and I love it. Yeah, there's nothing more fun, and that's why the cruise is great. I think that's why we all bonded in the cruise. We just like watching it and talking about it, and that's why I like having you on, or like talking on your show on Cheap Seat at the end, because it's just about productive conversation. We can disagree on things. We're gonna have wrestlers that you like him, you like her, but it's okay because we know that we're gonna like what we like and enjoy what we enjoy. And at the end of the day, I'm not trying to force you to like something. You're trying to force me to like something. It's just fun and camaraderie, and I think that's what I love about it. And it's a
I mean, the Venn diagram's not a complete circle, but there's a big overlap, right? Like, I like what I like, and I may not agree with everybody else. I mean, but There's something in that Venn diagram. We're gonna be able to sit there and go, yeah, dude.
Yep,
Right?
I love it.
And we're gonna sit there and we're gonna be able to chant.
Even if it's fuck that boat because they chose the wrong damn cruise.
You know what? Honestly, it's usually because they're looking over the rail going, what's going on down there? Is that they have Corey Taylor playing a concert?
Right?
Are they
Is he
putting on a
singing
live
SpongeBob?
wrestling show right now? It's like, get on the right boat. I'm also absolutely convinced that fuck your boat is why they don't ever park us next to any other boat ever.
Probably.
They
because they're
they
like,
did it the
no.
first 2 years, and then the third year they parked us in like an industrial area in Jamaica.
It
Year
made the
4,
broadcast. They had to censor it on the cruise episode because the Disney one was pulling out of port. And it's funny, I don't remember which match it was, but it was like we were already on the high from the title win. And you can just see everyone in the crowd turn. You just hear, fuck your boat. But then you just hear TNT. It was like, blop, blop, drop.
yeah, it's like,
And they were like, oh, it's really windy here. I'm like, that ain't the wind.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, we're not gonna hold back, and we're gonna be cool as shit to the real human being when we see you in the atrium later on. So don't take it personal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, everyone,
Thanks for having me, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And hope everyone has a great Saturday night. Enjoy the day responsibly, but not too responsibly. So until next time, I'm Mongo.
I'm Matt.
And remember, always keep the kayfabe.
It's all